Hello, everybody, and welcome to another off-season edition of the Mets Way. I am one of your co-hosts, Jared Levison. With me, we have Jimmy Hot Takes Nolan, and at the bottom of your screen, we have Ryan Finkelstein, host of the Locked On Mets pod. Ryan, thank you for having us on the show. We're going to be talking Carlos Correa, and pretty much, I don't know, everything Mets. We're going to ask Ryan a couple questions. Hopefully just have a nice conversation, and yeah, how's everyone doing tonight? Ryan, thank you for joining us. How you doing, dude?
Doing good. Looking forward to it. It's Correa week, but I'm thinking the Mets are just fine. So good stuff. I'm actually just happy it's over. I don't know about you guys. I'm just happy that we don't have to wait anymore. We can start actually focusing on the season instead of just negotiations that we can't hear. So
Yeah,
100%.
a lot less speculation. I know a big thing, and because we have another host in our show, and he's like I just don't want to talk about it because it's a lot of he is a doomer, but he's like I just don't like. There's nothing to talk about because it's just like this guy says this source, but it's that source is most likely Scott Boras. Like
guys, I don't know if you remember, 55% likely that Correa signs. I guess it was actually the 45%.
55%. Where was that from?
You don't remember that? At some point, I think it was a Heyman article. He said it's 55% likely that the Mets sign Correa. And it's like, dude, can't you just call it a coin flip then? Like, what's the difference between 50-50 and 55-45? And he was wrong.
No, and people were talking, it's like 55%. That's like, he didn't just say like 50 or like, even 75. It was just like such a weird number. And I mean, he gave us stuff to talk about, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, so the news happened the other day. Carlos Correa signed, what was it, 6 years, $200 million with the Minnesota Twins. Mets fans everywhere, I think, are more disappointed than angry. I don't know, Jimmy, how did you take the news?
I wasn't really upset. I feel like the Carlos Correa was kind of just like icing on a really fat cake, if that kind of makes any sense. We already got Verlander. That's I think he's going to be a huge addition. I think a lot of people outside of the Mets world are kind of underplaying that just because Verlander, we had DeGrom last season, but DeGrom didn't pitch as much as Verlander did last season, so I'm not going to say Verlander's going to go out there and pitch the way he did last year with another Cy Young Award, but, if he can do anything close to that, that would be great for us. That'd be a huge boost. We got Robertson. That's a huge one that I wanted to get into a little bit later. And, Nimmo coming back, I think that's huge. But, Correa, I mean, it would have been nice. It would have been awesome. But, I was listening to the pod Locked On earlier today, and, Ryan, you were bringing up some good points. Like, there's more money to move around now for other players elsewhere now. So I'm looking forward to that. And, Steve Cohen's a smart guy. So, he's not going to throw his money 12 years, $312 million. If he didn't think that was worth it, then, he's smarter than me. So I'm going to assume that it was the right decision at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think when we see the reporting now, like they basically wanted to pay half the contract, the first half, $157.5 million. The rest of it would have been non-guaranteed. You have to imagine that at some point, the $200 million offer was likely floated towards the Mets. Because I personally believe that Correa, he could say all he wanted to in the press conference today about loving Minnesota. I still think he would have rather contended with the Mets for the next 6 years. And I really think that they looked at the average annual value. They had already kind of put themselves in a corner. They couldn't just back out of it. So they were like, all right, $26.25 million a season. We're cool with it. If they had signed the Twins deal now, you have to look at it if they were going to kind of land it would have been $200 million for 6 years. Now you're talking $33.33 million average annual value on the luxury tax. That's a $7 million difference with all the penalties. And then you think about Machado being a free agent next offseason, Shohei being a free agent, anybody who needs a big extension that needs to get traded where the Mets be like, we'll swoop in and extend them. This just gives you more options, and it gives you a year to see what you got in Brett Beatty. And Eduardo Escobar as a floor for what you're going to get at third base, I mean, there's still a lot of teams in baseball that would have liked to have Escobar as their starting third baseman. So the Mets are fine.
Yeah, Escobar was a beast at the end of that second half.
He was.
He was one of the best third basemen. Yeah, I feel like he was one of the best third basemen in baseball. I think he had after August 1st, I'm not sure the exact stat line, but his slash line was actually eye opening after August 1st, and that's a long stretch. That's 2.5 months, and he was, like you said, one of the best third basemen, probably if not the best in the month of September. Maybe that's a hot take from there, but it's just
it was the month of Escobar. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he was
That's
the
not a
player
hot
of the
take.
month. He was the player of the month too. So I mean, yeah, it isn't really. It's just a regular take. Escobar was a beast.
Well, one of the things I said about when they had Jed Lowry is like he drew like one walk in his tenure. I was like, it was a $10 million walk.
Oh my God!
Escobar had a $10 million month, and it was worth every penny. I mean, he was great in September. So yeah, if they even get 1 month like that, and then Beatty can eventually be the guy. And honestly, I'll tell you what, I think Brett Beatty has a very good chance of being the starting third baseman from jump. This guy, to me, he's as can't miss of a prospect as they have right now.
I mean,
Yeah,
the good
Jared,
thing about
you were loving that, right? Jared, I knew you wanted to get into that, right? Beatty, right?
Yeah, I definitely did want to ask you about Beatty because I heard that you said that, Alvarez obviously the number one prospect on the team, but you were saying, but Beatty's the best one. He has kind of the best potential overall. I don't know what about, I mean, small sample size we saw him, but what about, Beatty in general that you've seen that, makes you say he has that potential?
Yeah, I think that the chance of Alvarez's ceiling is probably the highest because, I mean, he could be the best offensive catcher in baseball, and that's extremely valuable. But what I was saying is I think that Beatty is their best prospect right now because I just don't see a scenario where he's not a good major leaguer. The thing that was an issue with him in 2021, he hit the ball into the ground a ton. Look at his ground ball rate when he was in Double-A. It was over 60%. This year, he cut it to like 40%. So he cut his ground ball rate by 20%. You see that his load, he had like an inconsistent weight transfer on his load. His upper half and his lower half wasn't as connected. He scolded the ball whenever he hit it in the early years of his minor league career. The exit velocity was always high, but it was just getting all those pieces to come together. His swing looks so fluid now. He's driving the ball in the air. The power numbers were up. I talk about weighted runs created plus on my show a lot. It's supposed to measure hitters on a league average of 100. It's supposed to kind of take all these factors into account. You look at the league that he was in, he was like 30% better than the second best hitter in the league. Like he had like a 160 something WRC plus. He was the best hitter in that league. And he also improved defensively where I think he can be average at third base. So I look at him compared to Alvarez and I just see some little holes in Alvarez's game that he still has to iron out. He's 20. I think he'll get there. But at this moment currently, I just don't see very many downsides in Brett Beatty's game.
I think that's the biggest reason why. I mean, we talked about Escobar too, but it's like we're going to sign this guy to 12 years, and we have this other guy who we've been developing and drafted very high and even brought up, and he showed some success, and then what's Brett Beatty going to do? I guess maybe move to left field, but I don't know, the image of him being that third baseman on the hot corner with, Lindor near the end of his career. And I don't know, it's just, there's nothing to worry about at the end of the day.
12th overall draft pick. I mean, this guy, he's got the potential, I think. Like you said, the bat speed he has and the power, like even his outs were just hard outs.
Yeah.
And he didn't strike out a lot. I think he only had like 8 strikeouts and only 44 plate appearances, but only 8 strikeouts. I mean, the 184 batting average doesn't look too nice, but
just get him more at bats.
Yeah,
Small
at the end of the
sample
day,
size.
very small sample size, and those outs, they were just hard outs, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what he can do at a major league level when he does get that full time role. And I think like you said, you brought up a very good point. Alvarez, he's got the potential, he's talented. And I agree. I think he'll be up here, and when he is up here, he's going to make a huge impact. But in the 2023 New York Mets, I think Beatty has a better chance of making a better impact just because he's got that better pathway. He's a little bit older, and we did see Alvarez a few times, in the big spots last season, in that wild card round, and in this big series at the end of the year. His swings were just it felt like he was just trying to hit the ball out of the whole entire stadium at times, like with those swings. We saw him launch the bat into the crowd like numerous times.
Against Atlanta, that was brutal.
Yeah, so I mean
that was really bad.
I feel like Beatty, being 23 years old, I think, the better pathway. He'll get more playing time than Alvarez will in 2023. So I think he's got a better chance to make a better impact as well.
Ryan, I have a question for you, and it's regarding Francisco Alvarez, and it actually just popped into my head. So I read something today. He was saying to a Venezuelan journalist, "Hey, I've been learning English. That was like one of the main things the Mets told me to do to improve my defensive game." I don't know, just what are your thoughts on that in general, and the potential with Alvarez to play a defensive catching role, with Omar Narvaez and Thomas Nido still there. And, is he going to start the season in Syracuse? Just your thoughts overall on that little bit of Alvarez news we got today.
Yeah, and I think he also said like he's going to be on. He proclaimed I will be on the roster on opening day or something. Like I saw some tweets,
100%,
100%. Which I love the confidence. He had the confidence last year. I'll make it up to the big leagues, and he did. But he also did because of a lot of circumstances that kind of unfolded, where the Mets were just searching for answers. If Darren Ruff was just playing to the back of his baseball card, we probably never see him, or even Mark Vientos. So I think when it comes to Alvarez, the learning English thing is interesting. I didn't see that. At 20 or probably 21 at some point this year, to still have to command a pitching staff that has Scherzer and Verlander, I think those guys in some respect can kind of call their own game, but that's a huge learning curve he still has to go through. And I think when they decided to make the move for Narvaez, that told me that we're going to see Alvarez in Syracuse to start the season. Not that I think Narvaez is some incredible starting catcher, but they could have, even if they still got rid of McCann, they could have got a minor league signing. Like think of whatever Rene Rivera was for 5 years, right? The guy that you just sign and invite to camp, and gone with Nido and let those guys handle the catching position, and then left the runway wide open for Alvarez to win a job in spring training. They didn't really do that. So I think he's going to spend a month or two in Syracuse, get him a little more seasoning with the bat, but more importantly, let him catch every single day down there for a little bit. And then, something's going to happen during the season where a spot will open up, or he's going to force his way on the roster because he's going to be hitting 350 in Syracuse. You're going to say, all right, well, we got to just go to him. I think it's always good to not have to count on your prospects going into the season, to make them kind of force your hand. And I think what we liked about the Correa signing was it did that for Beatty too. But I really think that Beatty's at a point where he's basically shown everything you'd want him to up to this point, where I think they're okay kind of rolling the dice with him a little more than going into this season and just saying, all right, Alvarez, you're the guy from jump. But I think he'll get there. I do think that by the All-Star break, I would imagine that Alvarez is a pretty big part of this team.
We can only hope. That's all we got. Jimmy, you want to get into some questions now? I mean, there's some more big news too. I mean, if you want to go, I have, a specific Andrew McCutchen related question, but if you want to go.
Yeah, 100%. I guess the one question, real quick before that I had real quick was, so your thoughts on David Robertson? That signing, I think, is kind of flying under the radar a lot. So what are your thoughts initially on the David Robertson signing, and what type of impact do you think he can make in 2023 for the Mets?
I think to me, it's kind of the combination of bringing Robertson in and bringing Ottavino back. Like if you didn't bring back Ottavino, he just would have replaced him. Now you have both of them. I love it, and especially because I think Ottavino got some saves this year, but I like Robertson being kind of your secondary closer where, if you have a big series and you need Edwin to get you 6 outs, that the next night you still got a guy that has, 150 MLB saves probably under his his resume at this point. So we're cycling through it.
Sorry, my thing just sometimes spams through and it just starts clicking.
I like the production value. You guys got a lot going on there. A lot of different topics we're going to get to. I'm excited about them. But yeah, I think the bullpen is maybe the most improved group, where it's like the rotation, I think, is a slight upgrade. I think you like Verlander more. I think that Senga has some upside, but Bassett was pretty damn good last year. The bullpen, I think, is pretty improved, having Robertson and Raley added to what they had with Ottavino and Diaz and Drew Smith. I think they're in really good shape there.
Yeah, I love to hear that, because I know myself and Josh especially, who's not here, he was really worried about that bullpen. So we're pretty we're pretty psyched to see it. And I know I saw another report that they're actually looking at Zach Britton.
Yeah.
I know he could be some view him as damaged goods, but he's pretty well with the Yankees in some areas and some points. So what do you think about that?
Well, Buck Showalter connection too.
Yeah,
I think it makes sense. Wasn't
I
he
didn't
like
even think of that.
Wasn't
He was a
he
beast
like
with
the reliever
Baltimore.
that he didn't go to?
Yeah.
I think that he was the guy. He's the guy he didn't go to that everyone brings up. But yeah, when you're in the position the Mets are in, guys like that are gonna want to hop on with a contender, and you can take a flyer. It's not like you're for one. It doesn't matter if you break the bank anyway. It's Steve Cohen. But even with that, you throw him into the mix and you see what happens. I think one other reliever that I actually think we're going to be talking about a lot more. It's a show that I'm going to be doing coming up here. Watch out for Jeff Brigham. That was a really sneaky addition. They traded Jake Mangum, who I liked, but they got Brigham and Elizar Hernandez. Hernandez, I think, is horrible, to be honest with you. But that's some starter depth for you. Brigham, his slider, I saw something where his slider, like if you look at all the pitchers on the Mets, the only more effective pitch on their roster from last year was Edwin Diaz's slider. Brigham was number 2. Like his slider was more effective than Adam Ottavino's. So that's saying a lot. So I think Jeff Brigham is a nice piece. And if you bring in Britton too, I mean, that's 7 relievers off the top of my head that I really like. So yeah, I think this bullpen is going to be nasty this year.
Love to hear it.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I thought the Robertson signing was so funny because we were like, yelling and screaming for him to get signed at the trade deadline, and for Epler to make a move for him. Of course, he goes to the Phillies, and then he ends up finding his way back in Queens. I think it'd be really Metsish for him. Like I have this really terrible doomer kind of feeling about him, where he might his age is finally going to catch up to him, and he
It's
might
like Dylan Betances. We just can't get a former Yankee.
Exactly. Ottavino,
possible.
former Yankee, but I mean
That's true. That's true.
that's just the lack of, I guess, I don't know, trust in the Mets. But then again, it's the Steve Cohen Mets. It's not the Will Pond Mets.
Yeah.
Also, in potential free agent news, kind of mentioned this earlier, but there was a Heyman report today about the Jets, Mets, about Andrew McCutchen possibly, signing to the Mets, becoming our 4th outfielder, providing that depth that we need. Does that sound like something worthwhile? I know he's probably going to be around like $7-8 million. Numbers don't really matter, but what are your thoughts on McCutchen? And if not McCutchen, who else would you want to fill that 4th outfield spot?
I think that McCutchen, the name, is a lot sexier than the player at this point. That
Agreed.
said, I saw a clip of him wearing that Phillies jersey, half button. I'm like, oh, I love him. Just bring him on. The vibes and the swag alone, you want him. But I don't know. I'm not going to be mad at it. It's a 4th outfielder. Someone said I think he did hit 17 home runs last year. I saw that today. So there is still some home run pop there. If you make him just kind of a guy that faces lefties, I can see it. And I imagine that his defense in left field would probably be fine. I still like Adam Duvall. But I also think that there might be too much of a connection with the Braves with Duvall where he keeps going back to he might be holding out for them to clear a spot for him to go there. So if Duvall's off the table and you're just trying to find a name, I mean, I like McCutchen more than Khalil Lee. So why not? But I also could see them signing Andrew McCutchen, and this is like the last of McCutchen. He's DFA'd midseason. Like, I don't know how much good baseball he has left, but maybe on the right team with the right group of veterans in the right role, maybe McCutchen has a little resurgence. I mean, Matt Carpenter did this year, so you never know.
So I know you did say something about, possibly bringing back Tyler Naquin on a minor league deal, which I think everyone would be pretty neutral about. Had maybe like 1 good moment, 2 good moments maybe as a Met. But what are your thoughts on Jurickson Profar? I mean, in that wild card game, and I think through the season, he was kind of a Met killer, really had a career season last year. He's going to be a little more expensive than McCutchen, but also for that left field spot, nice, young, talented player. Thoughts on Jurickson Profar?
I think that Profar would be out on the Mets is what I think. Like, I think Profar is going to want a team where he's going to be a little more, geared up for some playing time. Like a lot of times we forget that these guys, they have their interests too. And while the Mets maybe could spend more on a 1-year deal, I feel like he's going to be looking for a team that says, yeah, we're going to give you like 500 plate appearances, assuming you're healthy. and I don't think the Mets can guarantee that. Like I think that Mark Canha is pretty healthily better than Profar. So I just don't know if he would agree to that role is my bigger thing. I think if you get him, by all means, switch hitter. I think pretty solid in left field defensively. I'd be fine with it. I just don't see it as likely.
Nice. That's because I remember seeing his name early on, and just from the year that he had, and also how he played against the Mets, he hit for 364. Like that wild card game we talked a little bit about, in game 1, hit a 3-run homer off Scherzer. And just like the name too, I feel like it just really sticks as one you're always gonna remember as someone who made you suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
But definitely, it's a worthwhile question to ask. But kind of in the mode of this disappointing thing, but also maybe a little positive. What's your most memorable Mets moment? A positive one, and also I guess your most disappointing Mets moment, being a fan.
All time? Wow. That's tough here. Most memorable moment. There's a couple. In person, most memorable moment was I was there when Bartolo Colon did the behind the back flip in Miami. So that was, and because I live in South Florida, so I've been going to Mets games, in that ballpark and the previous one. Never have I ever seen them play a highlight of an opposing player until Bartolo Colon did that. We actually got a highlight on the Jumbotron. So that was cool. It's kind of lame. That's the best moment I've seen, but there was some cool. I also watched some Harvey Jose Fernandez starts that were pretty awesome. I was there for the combined no hitter this year. That was another really awesome. Yeah. It was actually a weird game because you almost didn't it didn't feel like it was happening until the 8th inning, and then you're like this is kind of a thing. It combined no hitters are weird because it's not the same thing as watching a starter deal. You're just okay, another inning.
Yeah, and the Phillies had guys on base, I totally get that feeling, but Met history right there. That's pretty cool.
Now, disappointing. So here's what everyone likes to blame Beltran for the 06. Yeah. How about Aaron Heilman giving up the home run? That always Heilman just gets off the hook. So I'd say Heilman giving up the home run. And then one of the stories I tell on my show a lot is when I knew that, or the memory when you're a kid that you go back on, you realize you're a tortured Mets fan, or just a pathetic person for being a Mets fan. I was in a laundromat with my dad when Robin Ventura got traded, and I was 4 or 5 years old, and he said I was uncontrollably sobbing for an hour because Ventura was gone and got traded to the Yankees. So that's what I got. There's a lot of disappointing moments that we try to suppress, right? The entire World Series in 15.
Yeah, that one was a tough one for myself.
The quick pitch, man.
Yeah, the Duda moment, the Murphy, his couple bobbles in the late games,
There's the right home run. That's kind of it. Conforto's. They lost, but Conforto's 2 home runs. That was pretty sweet.
Thor's start was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say throwing it at Escobar's head.
That was dope. Great. If we won, that would have been Syndergaard would have had his Mets staple moment. He could have went off and had a terrible career, and he could have been known just for that one start. Oh, only if we got that win.
He's gonna be great this year, though. You can book that.
Syndergaard
on the Dodgers, yeah. They got Tyler. If they fix Tyler Anderson, I think they can fix Noah Syndergaard.
I've always liked Syndergaard. I've always thought, even when he was with the Mets, I always kind of liked him a little bit. Even before DeGrom took off, I thought he was gonna be the guy. Out of him, Harvey, DeGrom, Wheeler, I thought it was gonna be Syndergaard that was gonna take over.
In 16, 16, he kind of was the guy, and he kind of led that rotation with Syndergaard, Cologne, Seth Lugo, Robert Gazelman, and Gabriel Ynoa, and they went on a run in September, and Syndergaard was the guy. So yeah, there was definitely a moment where he looked like the ace. He was the one who was throwing 100 before DeGrom learned how to in his 30s.
Yeah, he went absurd. I remember that one, the start against Bumgarner. That was awesome. If he was just a little bit older and he was able to go 9-2, we would have had him.
Connor Gillespie, boys. Connor Gillespie.
I don't know. Bumgarner. That was his. That was his playoffs.
That was his last last bit of good Bumgarner. I think he hadn't had a good start the next round, but that was kind of it. Then it was it's all downhill. I don't know. Did he sign with the Diamondbacks right after that season? I don't know how long he's been there.
Yeah, I think he had that big injury where he like fell off the. Or was
yeah,
that before?
The dirt bike. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember where that was. I don't know which stop.
The dirt bike injury. I don't know. So he said, I guess you cried when Robin Ventura left. So was he your favorite player growing up? And how old were you when he left?
I think I was. Well, I'm trying to think. So he was on the 2000 team. So I had to be over 5. I was probably 6 or 7.
Okay. Understandable.
He was one of my first favorites. I mean, Piazza was like the first. Piazza Ventura was my first 2, and then David Wright, obviously, like who wasn't of our kind of our general age group. Like David Wright, I wore number 5 in all my travel baseball teams and everything. So Wright was the guy. Yeah, that was kind of it. I mean, I think everyone liked Reyes for a good period there. Delgado was awesome too. So
I miss Delgado.
Yeah, Delgado was great. I was mad when they traded Jacobs too back then. I was like, Jacobs was good. Mike Jacobs had like 10 home runs as a rookie. We thought he was going to be good, and then that was a pretty good trade.
I was watching a video the other day of Mike Pelfrey. It was like this day in Mets history, they like signed him to like a crazy contract before he ever pitched. And I remember I saw him pitch at one of the last games in Shea Stadium against the Marlins, I think, and I think he got pulled after like 3 or 4 innings. And that name Mike Pelfrey is like always just stuck in my head as one of those like, I was 7, 8 years old, and like here was this guy who was like an absolute unit, was supposed to be a beast, and just like, I don't know, not totally flop, but like
it was pretty bad. It was
yeah.
Pretty, I mean, he was okay. Of that group, like the funny thing is like John Neese caught so much flack, and like John Neese, not bad. Look at his stats.
He was so stable. Like he was just like floating. Like wasn't he on the 15 team for a bit too?
He was.
He pitched like he pitched 160 innings in 15, and I don't remember a single one of them. I don't remember him on that team at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was there. I think he made like 29 starts for that team, and it's just forgotten.
Yeah, he was a big part. I think they kind of moved him to the bullpen too mid-year too. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. He pitched 33 games, 29 starts. Wow, yeah, you're right. Oh my God, 176 innings, and this guy, yeah, he flew really under the radar there.
That's nuts. I wonder if he led the. No, I think DeGrom probably. He was probably close to leading the. And Cologne ate a bunch of innings too.
Yeah,
pun intended.
Probably.
Pun intended.
Of course.
Let's see. I mean, favorite Gary Cohen call of the 2022 season.
Oh man.
I guess that means it's your favorite game or favorite play, but yeah, favorite Gary Cohen call.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like one specifically that's memorable. I always like the not even the calls, just when Keith is saying crazy stuff in the middle of like a blowout. Usually on the wrong side of a blowout. That's the best. I mean, to me, like the most memorable game was the Phillies game. I mean, that was just great to come back from whatever it was, 8-1, 7-1. I think that's probably. I guess the other one would be the Nimmo catch.
Against
the Dodgers. I think that was maybe the moment of the season, especially now that we have like the extension, kind of like backing it up more. Where it's just like, oh wow, you listen to that press conference after the game, after they signed him. Like when I listened back to it, I got like chills. I'm like, this guy loves to be a Met, and he's going to be a Met for 8 more years.
Could you imagine if we lost DeGrom and Nimmo, and like no Met fan would ever want to watch that play again?
Well,
oh my gosh.
It's also funny about that is imagine at any point in the last decade saying that Brandon Nimmo would be more popular with Mets fans than Jacob deGrom, but we have reached that point.
Yeah.
Brandon Nimmo, I think everybody, like you said, everybody loves him. He's got to be a fan favorite. I'm hoping that, I know I saw an article last year, and even he said it himself, where like the Mets kind of want to make him captain potentially at some point in the future.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's just like the turnaround that he had, like, even when he was coming up with Conforto, I think, and everybody thought Conforto was going to be that guy and that outfielder that took it off, but now here we are, and he's the one with an 8-year, $162 million. Is that what it is, right? Jesus, that guy got paid. He got paid, rightfully so, though.
And he's still gonna drive the same car. I guarantee it.
Probably, oh yeah. I think he said that. I think he's still no point in changing it. I think he's like, I'm gonna spend some money on real estate. So Nimmo will buy himself a house and keep that money in the bank, which is good for him. He absolutely deserves it. And I think it's like the second the second like largest contract ever given to a homegrown player or something like that. So yeah, it's just nice. I did on my show. I was like, I can't believe that we're gonna get to a point where Nimmo might have his jersey retired. That's just insane to think about. But they win 2 World Series in the next 8 years. I think he probably will.
Just
I
one.
hope he does.
Even one, yeah, you're right.
I think all we need is one. I mean, just going back, I guess, at that 22 season, I don't know, like I guess the funny thing with Buck is, like, he always, whenever he leaves, like, the team that he kind of built ends up winning. You think, and this is like, you think that's going to happen again with Buck, or you think Buck finally gets his ring with us? I mean, it's like, it's totally subjective answer. There's no actual way to know, but like, I don't know. Buck has that whole track through his whole career. I mean, just your thoughts on that, and
It's tough. I've gotten to a point because this is not going to be my 5th season covering the team on Locked On Mets, and I did it with Callaway a lot, where I'd be second guessing stuff. I did it with Rojas. It's really hard to be second guessing the manager. There was a few games this year where I just had to talk about some puzzling stuff that Buck did because I try to stay away from that now. Here's what I'll say. I think it was a great hire. I think he's the exact guy to build a winning culture for your team. And I don't think that there is some great connection to the fact that the teams that he built up, that when he left, they were good. I think if Buck Showalter was the manager of those teams still would have won. I really don't think that changes things. But I also will say that, like, would I be shocked if at some point, if the Mets don't win the next 3 years, if at some point Buck Showalter would be a scapegoat? Like, I could see everything kind of happening there. I could see Buck Showalter having another 10 years with the Mets if they win a World Series, and he just kind of gets to stick around and enjoy, all the fruits of Steve Cohen's spending. But I also see the Mets failing the next 2 years, and then they just fire Buck, and then it so happens that the 3rd year it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the Mets win the World Series without him, and then that's just his legacy forever, is every team that he leaves wins.
that'd be so tragic
For him. For us, I mean.
No, for us, who cares? I mean,
as long as they win a World Series, as long as they win one.
not that
At
we're
that
saying
point,
we're
I think
rooting
I'd
for him to
credit
get fired.
I'd be like, Buck, you want to come to the parade? You gotta come, bro. It's because you got fired. You built this team. I think he's a big reason though for like the Nimmo turnaround though. I think it's he's huge in that dugout. I think he's very impactful. Real quick though, I just wanted to ask you one thing. Well, 2 more things I had, but I know you saw that. Maybe you saw that Kate Upton thing, that Kate Upton ticker. So we've been joking around with it for a little bit, but
Very much.
We're pretty hyped. Not that one. Oh, not that one. Jesus. But yeah, we've been pretty hyped about it. We've been joking around about it. We think it's actually pretty flying under the radar. But what do you think? What are your thoughts about Kate Upton coming to Citi Field now? And do you think it's actually undervalued that we have such a prominent Mets fan now in this Mets world? Like, we got a star on our hands now.
Absolutely.
2 for 1.
100%. I have one of my buddies who's been telling me, he's not even a Mets fan, but when they signed him, he's like, you got to start using Kate Upton in thumbnails. You're going to get more views on YouTube. I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. Yeah. But I'm sure the networks will. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of her in the stands for Verlander starts. It's just another, like, fun element to the team. That's kind of the stuff that gets you through a long season, is little things like that. Timmy Trumpet this year. Those are the storylines that those of us that watch every day, when you get through like the monotony of a season, like looking at Kate Upton on behind home plate every once in a while, I think we're all going to enjoy that.
Yeah, I just can't wait to like the big time Met games late in the season, cold New York weather, just seeing Kate Upton getting into it with like a Philadelphia fan. That would be awesome.
She literally did that.
I know. It'd be
awesome.
Nice. It's like, do it for us now. It makes it 10 times better, New York versus Philly, even though we got to get her a ring in New York. Definitely got to get her a ring in New York for just because, JV coming here, got to make that contract worth it.
She's got 2 of them from Houston, right?
Yeah, 2.
And then
1.5.
Yeah.
1.5.
1.25. But yeah, and then one last one that I had for you, and I think Jared has a couple. But I know you were touching on it. The Mets missing out on Correa could potentially mean bigger sign-ins in the near future. Shohei is going to be a free agent. Manny Machado is going to be a free agent. And we saw that Michael Marino, he put out that the Mets were reportedly they didn't want to go in too much on Correa because they were thinking about Machado next season. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's unwise for Mets fans to actually dream about, well, you know what, like anything's on the table now, but do you think it's unwise for a Mets fan to actually dream like, hey, we might be like legitimate favorites for one or if not both of these guys next offseason?
No, it's definitely. I think it'd be one. I don't think it'd be both. But they're in the running every year now for these types of players. You're gonna get more star free agents at some point. You have Lindor on the books, and you look at now it's Lindor and Nimmo, but beyond 4 or 5 years, the books are clean. So they can get any of these guys. Actually, my show on Friday, I just recorded it early. It's with the host of Locked On Padres, and we spent a whole show on Machado to the Mets. And if you look at their signing of Bogarts, you think about the fact that they have Tatis, they got to pay Soto. There's a good chance that if he opts out, he's going to go somewhere else. And then you try to look at different landing spots. I think the Mets make a lot of sense. In some respects, I feel like, the Shohei competition is going to be so crazy and that contract is going to be so insane. I kind of like Machado a little bit more. Just sign another pitcher too. And Machado actually gives you great defense at third base. I think that the health has been great. Like, if you just compare Correa to Machado as players, there's no doubt in my mind who's the better player. It's Manny Machado. So I think that's something to dream about. But you also, still going back to Beatty, like now they have a year here to see what they got. To see what they got in Brett Beatty, or I'll help you guys out here, or Ronnie Mauricio. You got something else to ask me there? Not that I've seen it a couple times flash across the screen.
Well, we're not into, keeping any secrets or anything. We're in full transparency.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, about Ronnie, I mean, he's so interesting as, obviously won Dominican League MVP, got a nice truck for it. It's fun watching his highlights and stuff. I love hearing the Dominican, the broadcast. Like, that's so great. And that'd be something really cool for American baseball, but that's besides the point. I mean, Ronnie is in that group of the top prospects with the Beattys and the Alvarezes. I mean, where's his fit on this team? Is there a fit? Is he just an asset to get in, a top caliber guy in a trade? Like, I don't know. Where do you see Ronnie's role in this team going forward, if there is one?
I'll tell you, he's changed my opinions a lot over the past year. I really did not like him as a prospect heading into last season. And all I had was the numbers that I was able to find on him. Then I went and actually took a minor league road trip last season, and I went to single A, double A, triple
Rumble
A.
Ponies?
I saw a Rumble Ponies game. Beatty, Mauricio, Alvarez were all there.
Yeah.
And Mauricio had an awesome game. He hit a home run. He had a double to the wall. He flew out a couple. Like, every single ball he hit was scorched, in the air into the outfield. And you see like the build of him, and it's clear why there's some scouts that love him. Then you look at the numbers, and he chases more and has some of the worst swing decisions in minor league baseball. There's a give and take there. What he's done in the Dominican League is extremely impressive. Say what you want about the competition there. Those games have stakes. You watch the crowd. Like, those are big moments in that league that he is rising to the occasion on, regardless of what the pitching looks like. So I think there's definitely some star power there. This is a huge season to see what they're going to do with him. Now that Correa is cleared, I think there's a better chance that he stays in the infield. I kind of thought they'd move him to the outfield when they signed Correa. Now they'll probably keep him at shortstop, and I think third base is his ultimate home. So it kind of gives you another crack at it, right? If Beatty isn't the guy, Mauricio could be. Ultimately, I think you're looking at like a Javi Baez type of a hitter, where like there's going to be a season where he's hot and he's going to hit 40 home runs and be great. And there's going to be a season like the one he just had in Detroit where he is one of the worst hitters in baseball.
Swings at everything. When he came to the Mets for that half a season.
Yeah, he was great in the half season.
When I saw him play, he was just like, it looked like Detroit Tigers, Javi Baez.
Yeah, you can
the inconsistency.
The stats overall that season were good, but there's some games where you're just like, what are you swinging at? And that's kind of Mauricio's a similar guy. I'm going to swing at almost every pitch. But the one thing I'll say about him is he does have some pretty good bat to ball, maybe a little bit better than Baez. So like, if he can waste some of the bad pitches he swings at, he might have some of a chance. I just think that when you get to pitchers that can scout for him, there's going to be a steep learning curve for Ronnie whenever he does make it up to the show.
Definitely going to need to be in a protected lineup.
Yeah, I don't see Ronnie, like, ideally, like, there's a chance he's with the team this year. I find it hard to believe that Ronnie Mauricio is going to be like an impact player for the Mets this season. I think he might get promoted at some point, but I think the learning curve is going to be too steep, and I feel like he could get called into action for injury for a little bit, and you'll see. Ultimately, though, I think there's probably some better options on the roster.
He's officially in Syracuse now, right? He's out of Binghamton, or I think didn't he end the season in Binghamton?
So he's played the whole year, I think, start to finish in Double A last year in Binghamton. Yeah. I don't know. I would imagine they're going to put him at AAA. Because there's really not, like, if you think about who's going to be on the AAA team, if Alvarez breaks camp with the Mets, like, there's going to be, like, no serious prospects there, especially position players. So I think that he's probably the starting shortstop in Syracuse. You should give him a whole year in AAA and see what happens. I also think that if he has an amazing season in AAA and another team is very interested in Ronnie Mauricio, I think he's extremely expendable too. Like, he also could be the guy that gets you the piece at the deadline.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank you for your answer. I mean, just having that flexibility is so nice. And then also having an owner with, the fattest wallet ever is also really nice. But having a guy like Ronnie, it makes me feel good that we didn't splurge the way we did, or the way we wanted Epler to do at the deadline last year, keeping guys like this, keeping that flexibility. It's really nice. And I mean, I liked watching Ronnie play. I saw him and Alvarez and Beatty play in Binghamton when Scherzer made his rehab start. I drove up.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was moving out of my apartment in Syracuse, and I stopped over in Binghamton on the way up. And honestly, don't remember much that he did. I know he struck out to end the game. That's my only memory of Ronnie Mauricio at that point. But it's a great ballpark. I love going to Binghamton.
It really is. Yeah, it's a cool little town too. Like for like a weekend, like it's some dive bars and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Steel mill, really rusty. Like, the ballpark is just like covered in train tracks. It's like, this is Double A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited though to really see what the 2023 Mets hold. But like initially, like, what are your thoughts though? Now, just heading into this season, now that it looks like this is the team that they're going to be rocking with, we got the guys that are seeming are going to make an impact. Go. Yeah, it's now it's going from that LGN mode to the LFGM mode. Now that we're heading into February, pitchers and catchers reports going to be creeping up. So, what do you think your way too early prediction is for these 2023 Mets? Now that we're going to be going into a full on war with, now that it seems two other powerhouses, I should say, three powerhouses in total in this NL East.
115 wins in a World Series. I think that, for one, I am a little bit lower on the Phillies than I think some people are. I think that they're good. Like, we just did when I was on that show I was talking about with Javi of Locked On Padres. We power ranked the top 5 teams in the National League, and we both had the Phillies in there. I just think that you have the Mets, the Braves, the Padres, and the Dodgers, and I think the Phillies are a step below. They're extremely dangerous in the playoffs, but let's not forget they were 14 games worse than the Mets and the Braves last year. And they're not going to have Harper for probably the first 2 months of the season. Trey Turner's awesome, but also, like, their big addition to the rotation is Taijuan Walker, who pitched horribly in that ballpark last year. I think he's going to give up a lot of home runs. So I'm a little bit lower on the Phillies. As far as the Mets are concerned, like, it's going to be them and the Braves. I don't know who's going to win the division. It's going to be a coin flip. They're going to be extremely exciting throughout the regular season, and let's just see if Verlander and Scherzer are healthy come October and they're looking sharp. The Mets got a good chance. It's baseball. We never really know what's going to happen, but the Mets are going to be winning a lot of games this year.
Awesome. And I mean, with 81 days, 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 53 seconds to opening day, still got a little bit more time to go, but I mean, it's going to fly by. I'm so pumped for this upseason. I know you're going to opening day, James.
Yes, sir. I'll be there.
Well, home opening day at least.
Yeah, it's home opener. That's my second in a row now. I actually bought the tickets literally like about a week after the Correa signing, and I'm kind of upset.
See,
Because
you were one of those, huh?
Yeah, I feel like
I haven't talked to someone who got swept up in the Correa thing and bought tickets. Then you're one of the group.
I was planning on.
Nice to meet you, buddy.
Yeah, I started a new thing last year of buying my brother like a Christmas gift of like the opening day Mets tickets, and I was waiting to like I usually wait till like the week before Christmas, and the week before
So
Christmas
classy.
basically Correa got signed, and I was like great, and then I looked at the prices and I was like, well, they're only going up. I gotta buy it before it gets even more up. So I bought it, and then now that this happened, I'm just like
Might come back down a little bit.
yeah, probably. But you know what? Whatever.
Eduardo
Yeah,
Escobar should be booed mercilessly early in the season. You're not Correa.
Where
we
is
bought
Carlos
these tickets
Correa?
for Correa.
I wonder though how like what's gonna happen with that though. I feel like Cohen kind of knows that, and he's kind of gonna offer some type of incentive to either season ticket holders or opening day guys, where it's just like, yo, I'll hook you up with something free.
Maybe. Or he could just be like, look, the team's still awesome. I still spent $400 million on it this year. So
Yeah, and you guys barely came to games last year because
Yeah.
I know they were having a lot of attendance issues. I do not think they're going to be having attendance issues this year.
I don't think so.
Let's hope not. I mean, Ryan, is that it, Jimmy? I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I hit on everything that I wanted to ask. Actually, one more thing, though. I know that – my bad. Lindor, I know that I brought it up on Twitter, actually, a couple weeks ago, that Lindor I was getting some hate on it from some Mets fans, but –
That's why your hot takes.
yeah, Lindor, I just think that he can have, like, a really improved 2023. I've actually been on the record for saying that I think Lindor is going to win the MVP.
Hot take.
Yeah, I just think with after August 1st, his numbers were absolutely insane. He hit like above 300, above that 800 OPS. If he was on track to finish like a 162 game pace of over like 25 plus home runs. So I really think Lindor has a chance to make an impact, especially now that he's more acclimated in. What do you think? Do you think like Lindor, even though he had a really good 2022, do you think that Mets fans maybe haven't seen the absolute peak of Lindor in a Mets uniform? Do you think that there's more to come?
I think what we've seen so far is we've kind of seen like the worst it's going to get in 2021, and we've kind of seen, not quite the absolute ceiling, but I mean that was a great season from Francisco Lindor. I mean, if you told me right now I could sign up for the unknown, or I could sign up for him to do exactly what he did again, I'll take the 6.8 F4 and the 26 home runs and the 100 plus RBIs, and let's roll with it again. So I do think that if you were to look at this roster, like who's the most likely player to take home an MVP, it's Lindor. It's either Lindor or Alonso, but I think it's Lindor because he brings so much to the game. The one thing I'll say is, I mean, whether it's a better season or not, having him as your starting defensive, shortstop, as good as he is, now that you remove the shift, it's going to be even more kind of glaring how much better he is than the other shortstops in baseball. So I think that's huge for them. And whether he has a better season or not, I think we're all going to look back on this Lindor contract and laugh at the fact that there was some people that have buyer's remorse. I think he's going to be well worth it, particularly over the next 5 years.
Especially with the way that contracts are going in baseball now. It seems like everybody is just getting 10, 12, $300 million. You want it, you have it.
You're only paying Lindor through his age 37 season, which it's not that bad compared to, Bogarts and Turner in their 40s.
Yep.
No, not at all. But Ryan, thank you so much. Anything you want to plug about your show, upcoming episodes, topics, or anything, or
yeah, I'm talking Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil extension tomorrow, Machado on Friday. But yeah, you can find us YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, Monday through Friday. I do our daily show, Locked On Mets, and you can find me on Twitter at Finkelstein Ryan.
Thank you so much, man. It was awesome having you on. Great meeting you. Hopefully we do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure, guys.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear that Alonso and McNeil extension tomorrow.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right.
All right,
Thanks,
see you,
man.
man.
Later.
Thanks, man.